Welcome to Everyday Faith, a conversation series brought to you by the Vedanta Society of New South Wales. In this series, I speak to fellow Vedanta devotees and explore when they discovered their faith and how it has helped them through their life journey.
My name is Uma Srinivasan, and if I were to introduce myself 6 months ago, I would have said I'm a professor of computer science and a research scientist in health data analytics. But that is my past life. I retired about 6 months ago, and I'm now a wannabe writer. I'm trying to be a novelist, so I've taken up writing. And the big thing for me is, I guess I just enjoy working and putting my heart into it. And so now this is my new uh, mm, profession, maybe not yet a profession, but this is my new area where I want to work. And so I'm writing a fiction, a novel based in Tanjore in the 16th century.
You're based in Australia?
Yes. I've been here for 30 years.
Okay. How did you come to find yourself in Australia?
No rational or logical reason, to be honest. One brother and sister, they live in the US. They went there as students, they went to study. I have another brother in India. So when we were living in India, so he said, hey, Uma, you and I, those people are in the northern hemisphere, you and I should go to the southern hemisphere. I was working in computer science. I'd done my master's in IT, and I was working in the software industry in India. So he said, come, you and I will go to Australia. And then he just one day brought the form and he said, see, they need software people. Why don't you apply? And so I just applied for the fun of it. And then within 6 months, I got the full migration visa. And then my husband and I have two daughters. And then I'm saying, what is this? It was just like fun and games. Otherwise, I had a very good job. And my husband, there was no really rational reason. Somewhere then I thought, okay, the kids will, the whole world is open to them. And, for software also, while we were beginning in India, I said there's a bigger industry. So as a family, we just said, okay, we'll treat this as an adventure, go give it a shot for 6 months. It works, we stay. If it doesn't work, we go back. And that's how we landed here.
When did you come to learn about Vedanta? Was that in Australia or was that in India before you moved?
I would say probably I started understanding Vedanta more recently, probably only during the last 20 years. But I have always been exposed to it because my father, even when I was in college, and when I used to tell my parents, they're traditional parents, and my mother used to do lots of puja. And so sometimes I would say, Amma, I don't want your rituals, and I don't feel like following your rituals, and I have college, I don't want to do it. And so at that time, my father actually gave me Vivekananda's book, Romain Rolland's book. It's an old book. I still have it with me. A very old book of Romain Rolland writing about Vivekananda. Now, so when I read that book, I was like blown away. I'm saying, because how Vivekananda talks of, it's all in your action. Your show your divinity in your action. Let your divinity be in your action, and you can see. So that's where it is. So that whole at that point, it's the karma yoga, and the way he really distinguished between bhakti and karma and jnana, and which is, and then the Raja Yoga. He sort of classified it all, and I liked it was so scientific, and it was not dogmatic, and and he never really preached rituals. And my big thing was that I'm not a ritualistic person. Then it sort of slowly grew. After I came to Australia, I started listening to the Gita talks, although we did have a Swamiji when I was in college coming and giving a talk, and he sort of introduced the concept of the divinity. You don't have to go looking for a God above. The divinity can be within you. Now that sort of was always that sat with me. And when I came and in Sydney, when my guru, who really made me see all this very vividly, is Swami Sridharananda ji here in Ramakrishna Mission. So when I started attending his talks, it sort of sat so well with me that Vedanta doesn't have to be religion. Again, I had little issues with religion. Sometimes people get too identified and they close themselves within the box of religion. So I didn't want to be in the box, whether no matter what religion, whether it is Hinduism or Islam or Buddhism, or when you confine yourself to a religion, then the dogma, the belief, a whole lot of you know happens. But Vedanta is almost like a way of life. It can be any religion. All religions are okay for Vedanta. So to truly understand Vedanta, I would say this has happened after at Sharda Math, talking to Gayatri Prana Mataji, talking to at Ramakrishna Mission, talking to the Swamis there. So God is within you. It is in your work, and that also is, you can, if you see God in your work, you enjoy the work and you do it without stress, because you're not doing it for anything, because you're doing it because that is divinity. You see, Swamiji once, he said, you go to a temple, and sometimes normally, or even to these Gita classes, wherever you go, those 10 minutes, we are completely with the talk, with them, with the spiritual feeling. And you go to the temple, you close your eyes, you take some beautiful fruits. Those 10 minutes, you're fine. And then he said, think you're picking nice fruits and beautiful flowers when you go to the temple. Now, each day you go to work, let your thoughts be those beautiful flowers and beautiful fruits, with no blemishes, with nothing faded there. Every piece of work when you go to office, every bit that you're doing is your offering. That is your temple. So if my work is my offering, that is where Vedanta for me comes into practice. That if I think of everything I do as an offering to God, whether I'm writing novel or I'm doing my data analytics or I'm writing my paper, whatever, if I do it because that's my archana, that's my offering.
Your spirituality can be expressed or practiced through your work.
Exactly.
What other lessons have you taken from the teachings of Vedanta, and how have you applied it in your life and career?
So there is that deep trust that you develop over a period of time when you really do it as an offering. And what that trust really does is gives you great self-confidence, and you feel good about what you're doing, and you're not wavering. People can say, are you sure you want to do this? But then the trust somehow kind of becomes almost like a habit. Because you're doing the best you can with the intention of. The other thing, what it also does is, because your focus is work and not you yourself. So I'm not, the focus there is this work has got to be done well. The focus is not that I need to get recognition for my work. It completely goes away from me to the work. And when that happens, there is humility, there is trust, there is self-confidence. There's a whole lot of, and over a period of time, it is stress-free. You really work a lot, but you're not doing it to gain recognition. Recognition will come. It always comes for good work. Always does. That's another thing I've found. I didn't have to go seeking recognition. I got all the recognition that whatever I deserved, I got.
But one thing that I find also happens then, when you pour yourself so much into something, although you may not be looking for recognition, there is the human tendency to form an attachment to that work.
Yes.
How do you then, because a lot of Vedanta is about being detached from the outcome. It means you give your best, but you detach from the outcome. How did you navigate that? Because I find it very difficult.
Is you can't just detach yourself. If you have to detach yourself, you have to detach and attach yourself to something else. You need something else to attach yourself. Like now, when I retired in July, see, I had 20 PhD students. They adored me. I was working with them, working with young people. And, everybody at work loved me. Nobody wanted me to retire, but I decided I have to, because they all finished their PhD. And before the next lot of students come, this was the right time for me to move. But then I had to attach myself to this novel writing. I needed the next attachment. So you can't just, we are ordinary human beings. Okay, I'm not a saint. So I do need something to attach, something else to attach myself to. But the important thing is, if in that element of attachment or in your work, you feel someone other than you is benefiting, then you feel so much better doing that piece of work. So the biggest satisfaction, like I still said, is the last 10 years is I graduated 20 PhD students. That's my, for me, it meant everything. Doesn't matter whatever else that happened. You need to feel purposeful in what you're doing, whatever it is, and that it's going to benefit people other than you is a great motivation, because we all feel good when we give or when we are able to help. We are as human beings, there is that need to, that social need is there to do something. Vivekananda said the giver should kneel down and give. It's not for the giver to stand up and give and the receiver kneels down. He said the giver should kneel down and give, because see how much you're getting by giving.
I think in the time that I have been part of Vedanta, what has really helped me, the one thing that I think started to turn things around a little bit, of course, not immediately, I think it is a process and it's going to be a
Yeah,
lifelong process, was when Pravajika Gayatri Pranaji said, detach from the outcome. And then you realize you only have so much control to a certain point, after which you have to step back and let whatever there is take over. In the past, that felt like helplessness, but now what it feels like is, okay, I've reached my line and I now pass the baton on to something else or someone else to take over. So that has been actually, I think, a very human approach to a very sorry a very easy approach to understand for kind of the average person, understanding that there are only so many things that you can control in life. When this pandemic hit, when you got the news that all of this was kind of unfolding, what were some of the initial thoughts that kind of went through your mind?
And my first thought was, I won't see my grandkids in all this. I won't see them often. Now I tell them stories. I play with them weekends. Normally I spend weekends with them, at least one day of the weekend, Saturday or Sunday with them. So my first thought was, oh, I can't see the grandkids as often as I would like to and give them a big hug. I'm actually very surprised that for me personally, it's not changed anything. It's actually made me focus more randomly. I'm not going out to socialize, or normally I don't go out too much to socialize. Still, sometimes, when I get bored, I would call someone. They said, oh, come over, I'll go for a coffee. But the frequency with which I was going out, all of that, I think was not needed. That much is probably not needed, because I'm quite happy doing what I'm doing. And Zoom, I'm having my yoga and meditation. Sometimes I would go to the class. Sometimes I don't feel like driving at night. But now we are doing it all by Zoom. So it's actually working better for me. Or as a family, my entire international family, we have a Zoom meeting of the whole family. We never used to do it before. We still lived far away. I would visit them once a year or once in 2 years. But everybody is feeling. So immediately for me, it was not about my life. I did feel very sorry for the way it was getting spread and going out of control and people dying. So it was more not anxiety about myself, but anxiety about the community, where it was heading, what was happening. So initially, I was perturbed and disturbed by the way the virus was spreading and causing so much chaos. And then, then of course, when they closed everything here, so many people losing their jobs. But what I also decided at some point earlier, of course, morning I would get up, see the news, where is it spreading? And then the news was sort of, and then every day I would be, sitting in the morning, once in the afternoon, and then in the evening, I was following it crazily for a couple of weeks. And then I decided, no, I have to, it's going to happen. What's going to happen? I will just quickly read the news early in the morning once, listen to the 7 a.m. news, and then 7 p.m. news of ABC. In between, I said switch off. But
And I
first 2 weeks.
thought, yeah, and I thought the first time I met you on a Zoom call, I remember you saying, because a lot of families now, WhatsApp is a big thing. Even my family, if my extended family, my grandmother and my uncle, daily it's something about coronavirus.
Yeah, indeed, yes, because with this whole WhatsApp, because I have so many relatives in the US, my sister and cousins, and every day they would say, or this is what the president is doing. So many people are, this is what is happening in this is what is happening in New York. And it was just getting so much. At some point, I said, you know what? We are only stressing about and we can't do anything about it. Then I said, okay, I started taking pictures of what I've cooked. I said, see, I made this vegetable today. So I started posting pictures of what I was cooking. So then everyone said, oh, I said, see, there's so much time. I'm enjoying myself. And then my sister also started posting some more things that she was cooking. Because of WhatsApp now, I'm in touch with all my college friends, my school and college friends, 50 years ago. So then there also sometimes when it gets all, too intense, there then I would put in a little, see the exercise that we need to do. Here's what this professor has said, shake your leg or move this and do the, climb down the steps. And so sort of something that is useful, but at the same time, not go deeper and deeper into the quagmire which we can't help.
Is that something you think Vedanta has taught you? There's only so much you have control. I mean, there's only your action that you have control over.
Absolutely, absolutely. Your decision, your choices that you make, you have control over the choices you make. You choose to go for a walk. You choose to cook. You choose to, when, information comes that you don't want, you choose to turn off the TV or the WhatsApp so you have a choice and you exercise the choice. And what you do with your time is also yours. You can choose to work, and then you can choose to think of that work as worship. Or you can, if you start thinking, you have a choice to think of that work as something that's going to give you $100 or work that's going to give you satisfaction. You can make that choice. Someone asked me, what is the novel? I said, look, I'm having fun. I'm writing a novel. What's going to come out will come out. We'll see. I don't know what's going to come out. And by saying it, I don't even know at the end of a year, someone asks me, have you done it? I'll say, I tried, but that's not in my hands. Will someone publish it? I don't know. Will I get recognition? No clue. I don't care. But I want to write because it's fun. And that is my choice. That's my decision. And my work is my way of using, so that's what Vedanta has given. You have a willpower, but you do need grace of God.
If we come to explore a faith ourselves, we absorb a lot of the teachings, which sometimes can either be on a philosophical or intellectual level. At which point for you did it kind of really just translate into just an organic reaction to your surroundings, or did it kind of translate into just the way you would start to interact with your environment?
Very gradually over the years. I would almost say consciously over the last 20 years. When I was 30, 40, I used to think I can get everything done. You may do, but it's not going to happen the way you want. And then life gives you all these hard knocks, no matter what you do. And you learn from that to see, look, this is not, oh my God, what did I think? It's not going to happen the way I want. And that is when you start thinking, oh, one time I decided I'm going to be an independent consultant with government and private sector. And then I'd done this beautiful, what I thought was a beautiful report for the federal government. But I realized they paid me well. I wrote the beautiful report. I got paid and everything, but they never took up my recommendations. But me, I wanted them to implement. That's when, and then the consulting book said, you know what, as a consultant, you have to deliver. That's all in your hands. Whether anybody takes your advice, that's not in your hands. And our Vedanta also says, when you say Gita says, don't, you shouldn't worry about the outcome. Don't get attached to what it is. That is what it is. So that sort of over a period of time, I realized that if you just leave that, the beautiful thing is you leave that, you're not stressed at all. And you're very bold at work. I spoke my mind.
I know you talked about that. Now you're writing your book, and you've also been cooking, you've been connecting with family members, all of which I think for you are positive outcomes. What would you say to others who are in a similar position as you?
I would say this is a passing phase, and it will change. And this is one case where it's for the community's benefit. What we are doing, this whole, the social distancing is more physical distancing. I would like to use the word physical distancing. Don't want to distance socially. It's a passing phase. What if you genuinely were not well? You won't be able to go and see your grandkids or your kids, or you would have to, look after your health and so on. So treat this as a pause, a phase where we just need to take stock of what we have and be, and really we there's so much to be grateful for. Above all, keep the mind engaged in something that you like and to work with the hands.
I guess to choose your reaction at a time like this, choose how you act and how you react. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ruma. I really enjoyed speaking to you. And yeah, and hopefully I will get to meet you one day in person, because I know I've been seeing you on Zoom mostly, and hopefully we'll all get to come together soon.
Yes, certainly. And thank you for this. Thank you for doing this podcast. I think it's a fantastic service that you're doing. Thank you very much.